The bells of St. Helena Cathedral rang through the morning sky, their echoes weaving through the marble corridors and the whispers of hundreds of guests gathered for what was supposed to be the wedding of the year. At the center of it all stood Alexander Reed, the city's youngest and most powerful CEO. A man who built his empire from sheer will, a name everyone feared to cross. But that morning, behind the elegant facade and the tailored black suit, his jaw was tense, his eyes sharp with anger. He didn't want to be here. The towering stained glass windows cast shards of colored light over his face as he stood stiffly at the altar. Around him, murmurs drifted through the rows of high society, investors, politicians, celebrities, all eager to see the moment the untouchable Alexander Reed was finally trapped. Guest 1, whispering, greater than, he's marrying the Vasquez girl, isn't he? The one who never shows her face. Guest 2, greater than, I heard she's deformed. Her family was bankrupt. It's a business deal, not a love story. Alexander heard enough. His fists clenched at his sides. Every rumor, every whisper added to the weight of humiliation pressing down on his chest. He turned slightly to his mother, Margaret Reed, who stood beside him, regal, composed, and calculating. Her diamond earrings caught the light as she adjusted his boutonniere. Margaret quietly, greater than, keep your composure, Alexander. This union will strengthen our control over the Vasquez industries. You can end it later if you wish. For now, smile. Alexander coldly, greater than, smile, when you've just sold me like a stock. Margaret, greater than, business, darling. Love is a myth. The orchestra began to play, soft, haunting violins echoing through the cathedral. The guests turned as the massive doors opened, and a slow hush fell over the room. There she was, the bride, a figure in flowing white silk, walking gracefully down the aisle, escorted by 2 attendants. Her entire face was hidden behind a thick lace veil. Only the faint tremor in her gloved hands betrayed her nervousness. Every step she took seemed to carry both fear and dignity. The murmurs began again, some sympathetic, others cruel. Guest 3, murmuring, greater than, they say she begged for this marriage. Poor thing. Guest 4, greater than, no, her father did. Anything to save their company. Alexander kept his gaze fixed forward, refusing to meet the bride's eyes, or what little could be seen beneath the veil. When she reached the altar, the priest's solemn voice filled the air. Greater than, dearly beloved, we gather today to join this man and this woman in holy matrimony. The words washed over Alexander like static. He wasn't listening. He was thinking about the press waiting outside, about the image of him being pitied, mocked, whispered about. He thought bitterly, she's just another opportunist. A woman who'll wear my name like a trophy. His mind wandered until the priest's tone sharpened. Greater than, and now, as custom dictates, you may lift the bride's veil. Silence. Alexander's jaw tightened. He took a deep breath, stepped forward, and reached for the veil. For a heartbeat, he hesitated, part anger, part curiosity. Around him, the audience leaned forward, the air thick with anticipation. Even his mother looked intrigued. He lifted the veil, slowly, deliberately. And then he froze. The veil fell away, and the world around him seemed to stop. The woman before him wasn't what he expected, not even close. Her beauty was quiet, almost ethereal. Her features were soft, her eyes shimmering like liquid amber under the candlelight. There was no trace of deformity, no scar, no flaw, only an expression of calm strength and sadness. A ripple of gasps moved through the crowd. For the first time, Alexander's confidence faltered. Alexander, whispering, greater than, this isn't possible. The woman's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. Bride, softly, greater than, now you see me, Mr. Reed. Her voice was steady, elegant, but edged with quiet defiance. He blinked, struggling to find words. Who are you, bride? Greater than, the woman you didn't bother to know before you judged. His throat tightened. For a man who commanded boardrooms and bent markets, he suddenly felt powerless, a fool standing before someone whose presence outshone the glittering cathedral itself. The priest cleared his throat, hesitating before continuing. Greater than, do you, Alexander Reed, take Elena Vasquez to be your lawfully wedded wife? Alexander stared at her, Elena, still processing what he saw. He could feel the weight of 100 eyes, the shock, the envy, the disbelief. And yet, behind the perfection of her face, there was something else. Something deeper, a sadness she carried like a hidden wound. He swallowed hard and managed to nod. Alexander quietly, greater than, I do. Elena's gaze softened. not in affection, but in forgiveness. As they turned to face the congregation, whispers rippled again. Guest whispering, greater than, so she's not ugly at all, she's stunning. Another guest, greater than, but why hide her face like that? No one had the answer, not even Alexander. But deep inside, he felt a strange pull, a curiosity he couldn't explain. And for the first time in years, the man who thought he could predict everything, prophets, people, even fate, realized he had just stepped into a story he couldn't control. Narrator, VO, greater than, he thought he was marrying a lie. But when he lifted the veil, he uncovered something far more dangerous, the truth that not everything broken stays hidden. The golden evening light poured through the tall glass walls of the Reed Hotel Grand Ballroom, now transformed into a shimmering sea of luxury, crystal chandeliers, white roses, champagne fountains, and hundreds of guests. The wedding reception was in full motion, but beneath the laughter and music, there lingered something heavier, curiosity. Everywhere Alexander and Elena went, whispers followed. Guest 1, hushed. Greater than, she's stunning, but why was she hidden before? Guest 2, greater than, maybe she had surgery, or maybe she's not even the real daughter. The gossip swirled like perfume, intoxicating and cruel. Alexander sat at the main table, silent, his fingers drumming against the champagne glass. He couldn't stop thinking about what he'd seen at the altar, her calm composure, her poise, the flicker of sorrow in her eyes. She wasn't what he expected. She wasn't what anyone expected. And that terrified him. Across the hall, Elena spoke softly with his mother, Margaret Reed, her smile polite but guarded. Margaret, though impressed by Elena's elegance, couldn't hide her skepticism. Margaret coolly, greater than, you've surprised everyone, my dear. You handle attention well. You'll need that in our family. Elena, smiling faintly, greater than, thank you, Mrs. Reed. I've had plenty of practice being misunderstood. Margaret's eyebrow arched. She didn't like being outwitted. As the evening stretched on, Alexander finally stood, his mind restless. He excused himself from the crowd and stepped out onto the terrace, the city lights shimmering below like a field of stars. The cool breeze brushed against his face, but his thoughts burned hotter than ever. Moments later, he heard the soft sound of heels behind him. Elena. She stood a few feet away, her white gown glowing in the moonlight, the veil now gone. Her hair flowed freely, her eyes catching the faint silver of the cityscape. They stood in silence for a moment, two strangers bound by vows neither fully understood. Alexander quietly, greater than, you should be inside. The guests are expecting the perfect couple. Elena, greater than, and yet here you are, hiding from them. Her tone was calm, almost teasing, but her eyes carried an ache that didn't match her words. Alexander, greater than, I'm not hiding. I just needed air. Elena, greater than air, or space from the woman you think tricked you. He froze, her words cutting clean through his composure. Alexander, greater than, you admit it then. You know what this looks like. Elena, firmly, greater than, I know what it looked like. But looks can be deceiving, can't they, Mr. Reed? He turned sharply toward her, irritation flickering in his voice. Greater than, don't play games with me. I've seen enough of those in business. If your family wanted to use me to save their company, they should have been honest. Elena took a step forward, her expression unflinching. Greater than, you think this marriage is about money. Alexander, greater than, isn't it always? She laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. Her gaze dropped to her wedding ring, delicate, gleaming, heavy with meaning. Elena, greater than, you know what's funny, Alexander? You think you're the one who's been tricked. But the truth is, I was the one tested, by fate, by family, by people like you. He frowned, unsure what she meant. She sighed and looked out toward the skyline. Greater than, 3 years ago, I was in a car crash. My father's car. We lost everything that day, our fortune, our reputation, and I almost lost my face. Alexander's eyes widened slightly. He hadn't known this. Elena, softly, greater than, the media turned me into a ghost. They said I was disfigured, pitied, cursed. So, I disappeared. I spent years recovering, not just my skin, but my courage. She turned to face him again, her voice steady despite the tremor underneath. Greater than, when my father passed, his company's debt fell to me. And your offer to merge, it came with one condition, marriage. I agreed, knowing you didn't want it. Alexander's throat tightened. Then why agree at all? Elena's eyes glistened as she replied. Greater than, because I wanted to see if power and pride could ever coexist with empathy. I wanted to know if a man who rules the world could see past a scar, visible or not. For once, the confident CEO had no response. The wind picked up, her gown fluttering softly around her. Alexander quietly, greater than, you thought I could prove that. Elena, greater than, I hoped you could. But when I saw the disgust in your eyes before the veil lifted, I realized something. She took a small step forward, close enough for him to see the sadness etched in her perfect features. Greater than, you didn't just marry a woman you didn't know. You married every assumption you ever made about people you thought were beneath you. Her words struck him like a slap, not cruel, but awakening. Alexander guiltily, greater than, I was wrong to judge you. Elena softly, greater than, not wrong, just blind. She turned, her voice lowering to a whisper as she began to walk back toward the ballroom doors. Greater than, you see, Mr. Reed, beauty fades, but arrogance, it blinds. She left him standing there beneath the pale city light, the sound of her footsteps echoing in his ears. Narrator VO, greater than, he thought he was marrying weakness. But what he met instead, was strength wrapped in grace. And for the first time, the man who had everything realized he had never truly seen anyone at all.